Hey, welcome back. I'm Todd Smith with another video teaching you how to make money and achieve financial freedom with real estate investing. Over the years, I've been blessed to teach tens of thousands of investors from newbies to millionaires, so I know I can help you too. But before we get into today's topic, if you haven't done so already, I just want to remind you to check out my free 90-minute online training class about how to buy houses without cash or credit at _secrets.com. I'll put that link and maybe some other resources in the description for this video. If you're watching this video on YouTube, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button below this video. And for some reason, YouTube made it harder. So after you hit subscribe, you got to hit the bell and then you got to hit all to make sure that you don't miss out on any of the money-making information that I have to share with you, because I do upload videos regularly. Fair enough? All right, let's get started.
So one of the questions I get asked very commonly is, what are the best neighborhoods in my city to invest in real estate? Now, in every city, there's going to be neighborhoods that have a high degree of investor activity. In my city in Columbus, Ohio, historically has been the west side, Hilltop area, and what used to be called the Bottoms, now called Franklinton area. That's a high investor area activity where there's a lot of buying and selling by investors. Linden area, which is more kind of toward the north part of town, and then the what we call the south side, which would be like south of Children's Hospital. So those are three high investor activity areas in my city. However, that doesn't mean that those are the only places that you should be buying. So the short answer to the question, what are the best neighborhoods in my city for real estate investing? The short answer is any neighborhood where there's houses, okay? So since I teach a variety of strategies, basically you just want to apply the right strategies to your neighborhood based on what your investment objectives are. So for example, one of the strategies that I teach is wholesaling houses, which there's been a lot of seminars about that in the last few years. So wholesaling houses, basically I'm buying a property cheap and selling it cheap with a small profit markup to somebody else who's going to be a landlord or rehab it. So basically I'm buying it cheap and I'm selling it to another investor of some sort. Now typically, basically I'm going to wholesale in any neighborhood. I don't really care. It could be a high price neighborhood, it could be a low price neighborhood, but I can make money wholesaling in any neighborhood. Okay. Now there are neighborhoods that I will wholesale houses in that I don't want to keep for long-term rentals. Okay, so that's kind of important because I can, again, I'm telling you, I can wholesale in any neighborhood. Doesn't matter high price or low price. Now there are some areas that I prefer not to own property in. Okay, so we'll get to that in a second. So the next strategy I want to talk about is lease options. So lease options, basically I'm controlling the house under a lease. And then I'm controlling the house under a lease with option to buy, and I'm usually going to rent it to somebody who also I'm going to give them the option to buy. So in that neighborhood, now remember, they have the option to buy. So I want to do this in a neighborhood where it's more conducive to somebody desiring to live in the house and being able to qualify for a loan. Because my exit strategy is that they're going to cash me out when they go to buy the property. So there are neighborhoods that, lower income neighborhoods that I might wholesale in that I would not do a lease option in, because in the lower income neighborhoods, the majority of the owners are going to be landlords. And it's not going to be as desirable for somebody that wants to buy a house to live in. So keep that in mind on the lease options. Now the next strategy that I teach is getting a deed or taking over payments. Now that I can do it in any neighborhood, and actually let me backtrack for a second, because lease options you can actually do in any neighborhood, but really if your exit strategy on the lease option is going to be for somebody to cash you out, it only makes sense to do that in a neighborhood where somebody can qualify to get a bank loan, because you need to understand that banks don't want to do homeowner loans in every neighborhood, and also everybody doesn't want to live in every neighborhood. So some neighborhoods are a little bit more desirable. They could still be a blue-collar neighborhood. It doesn't have to be Beverly Hills or anything. It could still be a blue-collar neighborhood, but it's just not a low-income neighborhood where the crime rate is so high that the majority of owners are going to be landlords, and banks aren't going to want to make loans there to owner occupants. Okay? So now getting back to this getting the deed strategy or taking over payments. Again, that can be done in any neighborhood. Now in this one, you got a little bit more flexibility, because if you have control of the deed, you don't necessarily have to, you don't have a short time fuse like you do a lot of times on lease options. So you can take over the deed and just use that property as a rental if you want to. So that can be done in any neighborhood. Now for whether it's high price, low income, blue collar, or whatever. So I always joke, one of the jokes that I tell in my seminars is that I consider there to be 3 types of neighborhoods: white collar, blue collar, and dog collar. All right. So obviously dog collar is the higher crime, right, where people have got a lot of pit bulls and that kind of thing. So, but yeah, so basically getting the deed you can do in any of those 3 type of neighborhoods. But for my personal investment portfolio and strategies, what I want to do is I'm going to prefer to do getting the deed in higher price neighborhoods. Probably white collar neighborhoods more so than blue collar neighborhoods. That's just my personal preference. So, you know, if I'm going to get the property for no money out of pocket and no use of my credit, I might as well go for a property I'm going to make more money on. That's just my personal preference. And that's true actually of lease options and also getting the deed and taking over payments. Okay, I want to do those in higher price neighborhoods, but they will work in blue collar neighborhoods too. And especially, like I said, the getting the deed you can even do in the low income neighborhoods. All right. Now, on to the next strategy that I teach is seller financing. So seller financing, basically the seller is becoming your bank, and you know, you don't need to go to the bank to get a loan. Everything is totally negotiated between you and the seller. A lot of times these properties are going to be free and clear. Not always. If it's not free and clear, it gets a little bit more complex. But a lot of times these properties are going to be free and clear. And don't think that there's not a lot of free and clear properties out there. There's at least 1/3 of the houses in the United States are, believe it or not, free and clear. That means they don't have a mortgage on them. So, and that's definitely true, and it's true in high price neighborhoods, in the white collar neighborhoods, and it's true in even the dog collar neighborhoods. A lot of times those houses are owned free and clear, right? Because they're cheap to begin with. In the cheap neighborhoods, the properties are cheap to begin with, right? So they don't take long to pay off. And then also in the white collar neighborhoods, you have a lot of rich people, right? And a lot of times they're paying cash for their houses. So actually, your majority of your mortgages are going to be more in the blue collar neighborhoods. But anyway, getting back to seller financing, with seller financing, again, I'm going to prefer to do that for my own personal portfolio in the white collar neighborhoods, in the more expensive neighborhoods. That's just going to be my personal preference. But again, it will work in any neighborhood: white collar, blue collar, dog collar, right? And because again, when you have a seller financing, you have full control of the property. Depending on what kind of terms you worked out with your seller, you don't necessarily need somebody to cash you out. So if you negotiate, long-term financing with the seller, then you could just use that property as a rental, which works well in low-income neighborhoods. Now, speaking of rentals, let's talk about rentals. So if I'm going to rent the property, all right, I can do that in any neighborhood. Expensive, white collar, blue collar, or low income. Now, the thing is, obviously, typically you're going to have higher cash flows in the dog collar neighborhoods, in the low income neighborhoods, because the properties are cheaper, right? So you may be able to get this property for $20,000 or $30,000, to have $30,000 into it, and rent it out for $700, or $800. And you can buy multi-family properties. So typically I specialize in single families and doubles, right? All right, so let's say that I'm dealing with a double, and let's say that in the blue collar neighborhood I can get that double and have a total of $60,000 into it, and then I can rent it out for $800 a side. So now I'm at $60,000, and I'm getting 800 times 2. It's a double, it's a duplex. I'm getting 800 times 2, so I'm getting 800 on one side, I'm getting 800 on the other side, so that's a total of $1,600, and I got $60,000 into this property. All right. Now I might go to a more expensive neighborhood where that in a white collar neighborhood where that double costs $120,000, and maybe I can only get an extra $100 a month out of it. So it just doesn't make sense to double the price of the property and only get $200 more per month. So you can see your cash flows are going to be higher in your lower price neighborhoods, which is why I prefer, if my exit strategy is going to be rental, I prefer to do that in a lower income, not too low, but blue collar neighborhood. I don't want to keep rentals in areas that are considered war zones where the crime rate is so high that almost all the owners are going to be landlords because nobody can qualify to get a loan there. All right. So now let's talk about retailing or rehabbing as another strategy. Now, if I'm going to retail or rehab a property, again, this can be done in, you don't want to do it in too low of an income area because, again, you want to be in an area where if your exit strategy is going to be to sell that, rehab that property, fix it, flip it, sell it to an owner occupant, you want it to be in a neighborhood that is going to be conducive to your owner occupant being able to get a bank loan. Okay, so so your minimum requirement is a blue collar area. Personally, again, I prefer to do this in a white collar area. Now, I have rehabbed and made a ton of money rehabbing, buying, fixing, and flipping houses in blue collar areas. But these days, my preference is to do that more in a white collar area, because if I'm going to go through the effort to deal with contractors and all that foolishness, then I want to make more money for my time invested. Now, I made a fortune fixing and flipping houses in blue collar areas, but these days I just want to get more for my time invested. So that's personally me. Now, obviously, it's harder to find those deals in the white collar neighborhoods and the more expensive areas, but hey, it is what it is. That's just my personal preference these days. Just to recap, what are the best neighborhoods to invest in my city? Number one, they're going to be areas of high investor activity in every city. You do not have to restrict yourself to those areas. Number two, you need to match up the strategy to you need to match up your exit strategy to the neighborhood. So again, if your exit strategy is going to require somebody to get a bank loan to cash you out, then you want to do that in more of a blue collar area or white collar area rather than a low income area or dog collar area. And again, the strategies that we talked about today were wholesaling, lease options, getting the deed / also known as takeover payments, seller financing. We talked about just regular rentals, and we talked about rehabbing and retailing, which is fixing and flipping.
Hey, thanks again for watching, and don't forget to check out any additional resources that I might have for you in the description section of this video. If you like this video, then show me some love with a heart on Facebook or a thumbs up on YouTube, and leave a comment below to let me know how the video helped you. If you have any real estate investing questions, go ahead and write those in the comments below, and it just may become the topic of my next video. And if you know anybody else that might benefit from this video, then go ahead and share it. Be sure to check out my upcoming videos, and until next time, may all your parents have rich children, and may all your children have rich parents.